What is shaking? It is day 21 of Impact Week, the Nutrition Week, and this is where, for most people, we're 3 weeks into this journey. Hopefully you've learned an amazing amount of information about nutrition and your why and exercise, but today I just want to recap some of the nutritional highlights that we either talked about in the module, talked about in the daily videos, or you've read about or heard about. So first and foremost, we know we need to get our nutrients. Most Americans, even if you eat a clean diet, are nutrient deficient. And in next week, I'm going to share a personal story of how I learned that I was nutrient deficient, even though I do a lot of the strategies or all the strategies I have taught you in this week. So nutrients matter, and this is what a concept of one way or insurance that you can help is a concept called volumetrics, which is really the title of a book by Barbara Roll. I think that was, I don't know how long ago that book is, but she wrote it, but I read it, and the concept is eating a lot of volume of nutrient dense but not calorie dense foods. So does that make sense? So with our calorie bucket and our carbohydrate bucket that we learned about, you want to keep track of calories, of course, but also carbohydrates if you're trying to lose weight, especially if you're trying to be ketogenic and do this metabolic flexibility that you learned about. So volumetrics is a way to eat high volumes of low carbohydrate, high nutrient foods. So what's an example? My favorite, baby spinach, 1 cup of raw, uncooked spinach, 1 gram of carbohydrates, and lots of fiber and lots of nutrition. So one of my go-tos, which you learned in the whole food smoothie, is cramming those in, and you can get 2 to 3 cups of spinach right here in a smoothie and take it on the road with you and have it as a meal or as a meal replacement. Another thing I like to do is I have a big glass bowl. I mean, it's very solid. It would not be a normal salad bowl, but I call it my salad bowl. And I fill it all the way up. So if you have some spinach or kale and it's getting towards the end and you're like, oh, I need to use that or I'm going to throw it away, or you're frustrated because you end up throwing a lot away, I will pour all that, I'll fill that bowl up to the top. And then I will put it in the microwave and heat it just until it's wilted. If you're not a microwave fan, you can also do it in a pan or just blanch it just enough to put a little wilt on there and get some heat into the leaves. And then, but for me, the convenience of the microwave, heat it for about 30 seconds just till it warms it and starts to wilt. And then I like a little bit of spice, so I put 2 circles, just 2 circles of sriracha, and then I'll put in, depending on where I'm at on my fat and calories, 1 to 2 to even 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And then I just stir that up, and it is this amazing side spinach yummy goodness. And I put in about 5 or 6 cups of spinach, 6 whopping grams of carbs, and all that fiber and nutrition. So that is one of my go-tos for volumetrics. Broccoli is another easy way. I mean, broccoli, eating it raw, takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, even eating cooked or steamed broccoli. So I always like to do it in combination with other things. And one of my other go-tos, broccoli per cup is about 6 grams of fibrous carbohydrates. So a little bit more than the spinach, but you're getting a little more density there. So taking your broccoli flowerets or some broccoli that's sitting in your fridge, doing nothing, about to go to waste, and you have to throw it out. Don't let that happen. Cut it up into flowerets, and this is my newest go-to, thanks to my wife. And the other ingredient is Brussels sprouts. So you take the Brussels sprouts, cut them in half, and then she'll pan stir fry those in a little wok that we have, or you can use a big frying pan with coconut oil or avocado oil. Remember, those are high oxidation temperature oils. So you don't want to cook with olive oil because it oxidizes at 150 degrees. Coconut oil and avocado oil are both above 450. So those are better cooking oils. So she'll put a little bit of that in there, and she'll pan stir fry the Brussels sprouts first because they take a little bit longer, and just till they start to get crunchy, but not like they're raw, but not mushy. So like 3 to 5 minutes, and then she'll throw in the broccoli, cook that for another minute or so, and then this is where it gets awesome. We found on Thrive Market, but you can find it elsewhere, a low carbohydrate buffalo wing sauce, but we don't use it on wings. We use it on our broccoli and Brussels sprouts. Imagine that. So she'll put just enough to give it some flavor, and then take it off the heat, and then we'll add the olive oil at that point. And when I say it is amazing, I'll eat that same big bowl. I'll fill that up with broccoli and Brussels sprouts and eat that with a little bit of protein, 4 to 6 ounces of clean quality grass-fed beef or pastured chicken, or in this case, if I was eating salmon, which is a fattier fish with omega-3 fats, then I would probably leave out some of the olive oil on the vegetables. So kind of got to keep track of your calories, and fat adds up quickly. So if you're eating a fatty fish or something that has a decent amount of fat, you can leave less fat off of your vegetables. But if you're not, you can add, like I said, some extra fat, either the coconut oil, avocado oil, and or the olive oil. So that is the concept of volumetrics I want you to get. Google some recipes, vegetable yumminess. Oven roasted vegetables is another way you can have a lot of volume of vegetables that are yummy and tasty. Remember, it takes your palate 7 tries to adjust. And I think maybe I shared the story about my beet experiment. I had an aversion to beets. I just smelling them would be repulsive to me. And I don't want to get graphic, but it would almost make me feel like I was going to throw up just by smelling them, much less eating them. So being somebody that coaches people, and I always practice what I preach, I've been telling my clients, you got to try foods 7 times over however long to help your palate adjust. So taking my own advice, about 1.5 years ago, I started that process with beets. And anytime I had the opportunity to try it, initially it was just literally like tasting it. Then I tried a bite, then the next time a little bit bigger bite. And over the course of 1.5 years, probably having beets about 8 times. Lo and behold, I actually like beets. We were just out at a restaurant last night with some friends, and I ordered the beet salad appetizer. So it does work. Personal experience with something that I never thought I would like, and so it can work for you too. So if you don't like vegetables, and I can't tell you how many clients I've had that literally had to start them on vegetable capsules, whole food veggie caps, and then watching them progress. And some, honestly, it's taken 10 years to get them to where they're hammering down lots of green vegetables. But remember, the volume comes from greens, leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and leeks, bok choy, stuff like that. So that's where the volume of your food should be coming from, whether you blend it and drink it, or you cook it or roast it or eat it raw. Just raw takes a lot more time. So if you got that kind of time, hit it, but also do some cook, because enzymes in cooked vegetables are very different than raw. So good to do both. And we also talked about our keto and crushed coffee this week, and I'm enjoying a cup right now to get through this video. But that is a strategy that I talked a little bit about with intermittent fasting, and we put that recipe in your first steps manual. And hopefully, if you haven't tried it by now, boom, it's time to try it. Let's get with the program. If for some reason you can't stand coffee, I get it. It's kind of bitter, but really good coffee is less bitter than really bad coffee, so keep that in mind. But at least try it with brewed tea. You can get some green tea some black tea. It doesn't matter what kind of tea, just make sure it's naturally brewed, and then you can try the recipe with that. If that doesn't work, do it without any tea, but you need a hot liquid like water to melt the butter, make all that magic happen in my demo. So don't give up, give it a try. It just makes the intermittent fasting process easier. Quite frankly, it makes it easy. And so that's a good segue into intermittent fasting. I just briefly want to cover how that works. Intermittent fasting is a longevity strategy. All the books on longevity and lots of research have come out on the benefits of fasting and intermittent fasting. So what is the difference? Fasting is typically multiple days, and if you do it for more than 3 days, it's usually best to have doctor supervision. So that's not realistic for a lot of people, and even when I suggested doing a 3-day fast or a 3-day water fast to my clients, they're like, not for me, buddy. So I get it, and I try to do a 3-day fast once a quarter. And the advantage of that is it's, again, a longevity strategy. It really amplifies the autophagy and then actually gets into a process called apoptosis, which is cell death, and lets your body really expunge, cleanse, get rid of all of the potential cells and DNA damage and mutations that are happening all the time just from being in life, in our environment, and the foods we eat. So 3-day fast is really a cleansing process to get rid of all those cells, which your body will do naturally. You just have to give it the opportunity. So that would be the big reason to do a 3-day water fast, or some people do it with just black coffee. That works too. But that's not what I want to talk about. Intermittent fasting is very realistic. You get a lot of the benefits of the 3-day fast without the sacrifice. And if you can do a version of the keto coffee or tea or water, it's going to make it super easy because you're not going to be battling your willpower through the process. So different protocols. There's an alternate day protocol, which is every other day you're doing an intermittent fast. And the idea is from the last meal you eat at dinner, and I'm talking about for most people, if you're a shift worker, or if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, the better strategy is to skip dinner. But for most people in America, that's our social window, that's our family time, and it's just not realistic. Is it possible? Definitely. So I'm a realist, so I think, got a little itch on my ear, sorry about that. But for most people, it is realistic to skip the breakfast. You're not really skipping because you're doing the bulletproof keto coffee, and that's going to give you some energy, some ketones to get through till your first meal. So the idea is from the last meal the night before, you need to create a 16-hour window that you're not eating, other than if you're doing the keto coffee. That doesn't stimulate insulin. You can do black coffee, you can do water. You don't have to do the coffee, but it just makes it a little bit easier because I have brain energy, like I'm running on keto coffee right now doing this video. And so I haven't had anything, and it's coming up on 11 o'clock. I feel great, I'm not hungry. So the idea, 16 hours from my last meal, we ate kind of late, 9 o'clock last night was our last food that went in my mouth. So 16 hours, 12 to 9, then we go 10, 11, 12, 1. So I would have to wait till at least 1 o'clock to get that autophagy kicking. Ideally, you make it to 18 hours, you're going to get even more benefits. So that's the idea with intermittent fasting. Then you can do it alternate day, every other day. You can do a 5 and 2 protocol where on 2 days of the week you do the intermittent fasting. And that's what I do. And the other 5, you're not so concerned with doing that. You can have breakfast for some people. I personally will do the crushed coffee most mornings as my breakfast, and then I'll have my first meal at 2 o'clock. So the other advantage of doing that, it is a calorie controlled system. So you know exactly you have 240 calories, or if you put in the collagen, you're throwing in an extra 80. So that's 300 calorie breakfast. Calorie controlled, I know there's no doubt on that. And then that allows me, with my calorie bucket, I pour out 300 calories of my 2,000. I got 1,700 left. Then I'll have my lunch. Then I'll have my dinner. And so that's kind of how that works. And you can look in the First Steps manual for the 5 and 2 protocol that I recommend. And finally, this is a segue into the next week. We need to talk about, even if you're doing the volumetric strategy of getting lots of nutrients, like I'll share my story, but there's obviously a need for nutrients, and your body needs them. As we get older, we start depleting more and more nutrients, and it's harder and harder to replace. And I'm going to explain why, even if you eat insane amount of vegetables, that you're still going to be deficient in critical nutrients. So next week, we're going to talk about, in week 4, all the strategies that I use and the science says can help you replenish nutrients in a cost-effective, efficient, time-sensitive way. And that's what you're going to learn about next week in week 4. So make sure you tune in to the videos. This is kind of a recap of week 3, impact week, because nutrition has the most impact on how we look, how we feel, and how we age. And then exercise is the magic pill, which we talked about in week 2. And then making sure in week 1 you found your why. If you haven't found your why, get on it. Go revisit day 2, video 2, and find your why. Get that emotional reason, because otherwise you're just going to fizzle out and not have the motivation to get your forever transformation. So that is the recap week 3. I'm super proud of you. We've come on this journey. Thank you for watching me, and thank you for being with me as we transition to week 4. I'm super excited. Let's keep this fire burning, and we will see you tomorrow. We'll talk about all the nutrients that are going to make you feel amazing and how to get them. So see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Catch you then.